Okay. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Ricardo. Uh,
Hi.
Thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate you guys putting on the panel.
Thanks to you. And meet Hanny and Fabio from Ludo Storia from Italy.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be keeping our webcams open because we need for some bits of the presentation. So feel free, do whatever you want. Don't worry about the webcams. Okay. All right. I think that we can begin. Okay. Welcome everybody. Welcome here to one of the, I think, the strangest presentation in the entire event. This will be a presentation. This will be made in English. Don't worry, but it will be made by three Italian guys. And I want to introduce you. I think that some of you know me already, Riccardo Masini, and I am the curator of blog, one of the most followed wargaming channels in Italy in Italian language, and also there are various essays and books and articles and blah 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 about historical wargaming. But also, I am one of the administrators of the Italian Facebook group Ludo Storia, which is a group dedicated to all forms of historical gaming. We are on Facebook, we have a website, on Instagram, on Telegram, everywhere. And we also made quite a few public events. And together with me this evening, now it's evening in Italy. I don't know what time it is. Where you are now, we have also, let me introduce you, Annie from Club de la Tovaglia. Hi, Annie. And
Hello.
And Club de la Tovaglia is another great board gaming and historical gaming also channel. Yeah, here she is in Italy, and she's one other administrator of Ludo Storia, or the Ludo Storia group. And then here we have Fabio Raschini. Also, he is
Hello.
another admin of the Ludo Storia group, and also our tech wizard of the group, because this thanks to him that we organized an online convention, which was not unlike the SDHistCon, and that is the virtual Ludostoricon. That is the virtual connection of Ludostoria on our own Discord server. Together, we will speak about a very peculiar element of historical gaming that is a bit controversial. Let me make a brief introduction. This is the storytelling element, the narrative element in historical gaming. Because this is a somewhat controversial point, and we will see together with some games on the table and also our presentation how historical games, also war games, also traditional axe and counter war games, manage to tell stories. Now, in academia, I will say, in essays about board gaming, in board gaming studies, we all know that this point is somewhat controversial. The last one to cover this topic was Marco Arnaudo in his great book about storytelling in board games. And in that book, Marco, another Italian, because we are everywhere, and Marco effectively separated the war games from storytelling techniques. He said that war games, the storytelling in war games does not follow the traditional elements of narration of storytelling techniques. This is true. We think it's true, but in our Ludo Story group, this is we together with other aficionados and other students of historical games, we have found that there is another kind of storytelling that is not conceptually not unlike traditional storytelling. We have to revert back to epic literature, to Homer, to Virgil, to Euripides, to the Greek tragedy, and even to Cydides, to the father of historiography, of modern historiography, to find this kind of storytelling, the event storytelling, the what happens to people getting caught in great historical moments. Of course, this is different from fantasy role playing or what happens on a board game table, but it is there. And also, I want to thank my dear friend Maurice Suckling. He has written a lot about this, about storytelling in board games, and about the narrative arcs that are there also in simulation gaming. And from the word itself, and now I am leaving the word to Annie and Fabio, and then later I will get a closing segment. In historical gaming and in simulation gaming, the storytelling is there just in the word, because if we speak about simulation, that is creating an action through games that is similar to an action in the real world, we are doing storytelling. We are doing narration. We are telling stories. Even in war games, even in traditional war games, even in hybrid games. But you will see how. Now I leave the word to Annie, and here you are.
I'm so sorry because I don't speak English very well. So I have
That's
prepared the
not true.
text that will help me to talk about this game. If you have any question, don't do it.
I will translate them. Don't worry.
We
I'm
can
joking, I'm
translate.
joking.
We can
Yeah,
translate. Don't
we can.
worry.
Fabio and Riccardo will help me with the translation from Italian. Today I will talking about a game that I like so much. You know this game with the name Resist, a game of David Thompson, Trevon Benjamin. But we in Italian speak. The original name is Resist, but in Italian we do no passaran. Okay. I believe the Italian publisher chose this name because of the importance of this propaganda slogan. You know, Dolores Ibarurri, known as La Passionaria, also used this slogan during her public speeches. Dolores was a Spanish activist and anti-fascist woman. She was part of the Spanish parliament before Franco's dictatorship and after the return of Spanish democracy in 1977. In this game, No Passaran or Resist, you find yourself in the 1936 when Francisco Franco and his force advanced through the territories of Spain and leading to a long period of civil war and repression. The Spanish Republic, born from the experience of the Popular Front, sparked a wide movement of solidarity that involved many European and American countries with the support of people against fascism from various backgrounds, including some Catholics, despite the Vatican's position. Many board games have the ability to tell stories, and No Passaran is one of these board games. It has introduced people to the world of the historical games. People who didn't like historical games before are now people who don't like these historical games before, and now enjoying them, this game. Sorry,
because of its narration, because of its storytelling elements,
exactly,
and the involvement, psychological involvement.
Yeah, they enjoying them now. This game is so important because has changed the perspective. We are not on a battlefield with the two armies line up, but we play as a part of resistance, alongside the civilian population defending themselves as best they can. In Opassaran, we play, I show you this, some historical scenarios. Here. Historical scenarios like this. This is the first one we know in the rule book. On the October 19, 4,000 soldiers of the Spanish Republic Army, who had fought for the years with the French partisans for the liberation of Paris, return to their territories.
And it is 1944. This is important.
44.
44, yeah. After the end of the Spanish Civil War.
After the end of the Spanish Civil War, yes.
Okay.
They returned to their territories, which had abandoned after the Catalan retreat in 1939. They occupied, I don't know the pronunciation, Pyrenees.
The mountains between valley. Spain and France.
Exactly, with another 4,000 soldiers ready to step in at any times. We are here to reclaim our country, but Franco had built over 4,000 fortifications in mountains, expecting armed resistance in Spain after Germany's fall. This is a strange game because winning is not the goal of No Passaran. First, because winning this game is really difficult, really, really difficult. Even when you are close to victory, it's still a defeat if there are many innocent victims. Because in these games, it's possibility of have some victims, civil victims, is
of reprisals.
Exactly. No Passaran is No Passaran, like Resist. It's a game that teaches history, but also the empathy. And the most important thing, I think, that in war there are never winners. This game is basically a card game, even if I have some play mat here, but it's not included in the box. Just cards with the army, the civilian, and some scenarios. Sorry. And depending on the scenarios or difficult level, you draw objectives to solve and play with a deck of cards. The first choice, which cards keep or discard, I think is very, very important. Because war is like a card game, because you have to be good at planning your strategy with what you have in your hands. On the other side, it's about choosing how to play your characters.
And they're people. And they're people. They're not assets, just like that.
Exactly. This is the characters. You have the characters inspired, I think, to normal people or I don't know how do you say persone che sono già esistite. I don't know.
Okay, the real life persons. So
Okay,
people
real
would really
life person.
existed. They're just inspired by them, by real living people.
I think there is Domingo, Adolfo, Abel is like obviously Spanish name. But do I keep my identity secret or and have less strength in fighting, or I reveal who I am and help us as much I can, knowing I'll be out of the game later? It's a difficult question, a difficult choosing. This for me is the most realistic part of this historical game. The choice and how important that choice is. The designers, I think, here did an amazing job. If you have any questions, I'm here, but I answer in Italian because I don't speak English.
I will. We will make the questions later, at the end of all our segments. The fact is that with a game like that, like the one that Annie has introduced us, I don't know if you already played that. You see, those cards have more or less the function of ancient tarot cards. So they tell stories. Every card is a character, is an event. It's a story that is developing before your eyes. Of course, we can consider this an hybrid game. This is conceptually a war game for its content, because it is about war, it is about insurrection, irregular warfare, etc. This is war, so this should be considered a war game by its contents. Its mechanics are totally different from everything we consider usually war game. There is no map, there are no counters, there are no tables, etc. But as you see, we are speaking here about historical gaming and wargaming in its widest conception. And as you see, even with such a simple solitaire game, because it is very simple, Resistance is a very simple game, we are creating stories. We have had experiences. I had experience really deeply traumatical psychological experiences with this game, because I felt attached to those characters. I felt attached to the events. I made a great result in my mission, but this reprisal destroyed an entire village of innocent civilian people, even neutral people that were not on my side, but they were killed anyway. So and this is storytelling at its most. Okay, this is an hybrid game. Okay, but Fabio, now we will speak to us about another game that becomes quite more similar to a traditional war game. And it is a game about regular warfare. It is not even about insurrection. Fabio.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm Fabio. For who doesn't know me, I'm from Lutostoria 2 in the administration group. And I have a YouTube channel about war game, historical board game, and regular board games, also some video games.
Okay.
So,
but we don't judge. We don't judge.
We don't judge. We don't judge. So the game that I'm going to talk you about today is Undaunted North Africa.
Okay.
Before starting to talk about that, where I would like to make a little digression before, most of the war games, most of you probably play tons and tons of X Encounter games. And, the situation that you have in these games, at least at most extents, is to have a kind of complete control on the battlefield, or at least complete control on your own units. You have your cheat pool, you track one of your general, and immediately every one of your battalion, which one is the position, which one is their strength, which one is the strength of the enemies in front of them, and you start to move all of them like a Switzerland clock. Everything is working fine, and you know exactly what you're going to do and which one is going to be your next move. Sure, X Encounter games have other balances like the cheat pool, like, okay, I move all my troops in these sectors, but I don't know when another sector is going to be activated. But when you're activating some things, you perfectly know more or less what you're going to do with that. Well, actually, in the real battlefield, I strongly believe this was not the situation. I mean, especially during the first two World War, in this case, World War II, the information was so laggy, so no, you were never sure about neither the position of your own troops. God forbid to know the position of enemy and the enemy forces. You need to send out scouts that maybe were not able to identify enemy units. They were never returning. Maybe they have a radio, good, but maybe it was broken. You have air reconnaissance, but maybe some tanks battalion was hiding behind in the forest. They were not able to identify anything. So basically, you have on a battlefield, you try to make sense of all these cows that you have based on wrong information, missing information, and delay of information. Generals, but down to all the chain of commands, give commands that you were never sure that were actually executed in time. Maybe you receive, yeah, we captured that village, but maybe you received that information 6 hours before or 6 hours later, and maybe that village was lost meanwhile, or the complete group sent there and the teams and the squad wipe out, but you have no this kind of information. So you have a lot of chaos. I play a lot of laser tag. It's the kind of sports that you do, like you go in a kind of this arena that are similar to Halo or a real tournament. You have your vest, you have your laser rifle to shoot other players, and you play on that. And well, we have just 6 people inside in 2 teams, and it's so difficult to make communication in this environment that you're just playing a game. And just imagine what can happen in a real battlefield. I mean, people are shooting at you. You are not thinking rationality. Something can happen. Your friends can be dead there out of nowhere, and you have literally no control of this situation, and you have to try to adapt to the chaos of the battlefield. So, Undaunted, that's set in North Africa, as the name suggested. This is North Africa version. It's set in 1940. North
Yeah,
Africa
1940.
between 1940.
Incredibly, there are
important.
no Germans in the game because it is just
no Germans.
Italians against the British.
Exactly. So just Italian against the British. Let me share the screen so I can show you also the game.
Okay. It's come. Okay, we see that. We see.
We see that? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Everybody
Let's go.
switch to the screen by Fabio.
So you can follow what I'm going to say. So, how's the setting? The settings is on squad level, essentially. So you have different units on your battlefield represented by this token. This is the anti-tank guy, you have the scout, the sniper, and so on. There are different scenario. They're going to make sabotage mission most of the time done by the British against the Italian supply line. The first things interested about the narration of this game and how it's embraced chaos that is going to create very interesting stories all the time different is, first of all, it's going to be a card-driven game where we are simply using cards for making our actions. The nice thing is every card has its own name, so this is not going to be just your anti-tank rifleman. This is going to be Rob Taylor. So when rifleman is going to miss, you know which one you have to complain against. It's Rob.
You see the action. You see the action.
Yeah.
You see what's happening.
You see what's happening, and you see the people that are performing that. Essentially, every card is going to give you a set of action that you can perform, like movement, attack, and so on. The important part of this game is how they embrace also the concept that is hiding in a lot of game that actually is not represented. That is about the scouting and the trying to get the information out to the battlefield. So one of the most important is that you cannot move in any of your tiles if you don't have this little binocular marker that is going to represent this area is being scouted. So we have information. We can move there. So what you're going to do during the game, you send your scout that has these nice scout actions, and you move them across the board to try to scout new areas. So for example, we got here, we explore, now we can move there. But doing this, you see, before all the people were here in these nice tiles, all the four together, they were compact, they were doing stuff. Now they break cohesion. You have the scout heads, and I'm going to simulate the fact that I'm losing cohesion. Every time I'm exploring something, I will add to my deck this Fog of War card. That is essentially a dead card, but is going to represent how I'm spreading thin on the battlefield, and so I'm losing cohesion and chain of command. So every reaction of my man is going to be less responsive time.
Fabio, one of the things that, and this more in North Africa than even in Normandy, because in North Africa every single counter represents one single man, not a squad of men, is that I can hear the voices of the men going around on the battlefield. And what do you see? Oh, shoot it! Boom! Oh no, you missed! It is just like a movie, a TV series, and you see that developing before your eyes. And this is in a true war game.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the action unfolding while you're moving your band with the name Bill going to scout, and then Robertson is going to follow on that. Yeah, you see the action unfolding. This that absolutely you can feel the thrill of the action in this. And then you have also the it's interesting how is handled the attack and the damage system, essentially where you're going to hit an enemy counters, like for example, an enemy scouts. What you're going to do, you're going to remove for the game a card that the opponent has. So it's going to, if he has in his hand, it's going to be removed from his hand completely or from his deck. That also simulates pretty good what can happen. Maybe you hit him and you destroy part of his equipment. Maybe it's going to be wounded and so on. So you have even less reaction of one of your same soldiers because has been hit by opponents. This really embrace more the chaotic because you have to rearrange what you're going to in that turn because you have the card in hands. You were ready. You were totally ready to move your engineer for sabotage the enemy hardplane, but maybe you cannot do anymore because you just lose the hand and you cannot arrange and save cards for the later turns. Every turn you have to arrange with what you draw in the same turn. So that's create really dynamic situation, and this also create simulates greatly the chaos because maybe you said, well, I would really like with my gunners to be able to pin down one of your units before my infantryman is going to take objective, but you didn't draw the card. What happens? That simulates a lot. A machine gun that has been jammed, the orders has been not received, or maybe the machine gun itself, this guy, Ignazio Pellegrini, maybe in that moment was crying, hiding in a foxhole. Who knows? I mean, you simple don't have in hand. You have to arrange and decide what to do. The nice thing that you cannot plan ahead, like, okay, this scenario has the perfect movement that you move this kind of unit in that place and perform that. No, it's going to be random what you're going to be.
This gives you a story, not just a mathematical function. You know, okay, you have the 10% of probability that this reaction will have success. 20. No, this will be a story. Also, Fabio, sorry to interrupt you, but this is a game that really taught me how even one of our Italian think tanks, because they were think tanks, the M13, okay, our light tanks.
The Ansaldo Fiat.
They were horrible. But with just one machine gun, when you are just one group of the Scorpion, so of the SAS, the British SAS, trying to blow up a depot in the desert, even its Breda, its small machine gun, it becomes a monster. it really feels like a steel monster, even if they are tin cans. In a traditional war games, we see them essentially as worthless. Here, they have their own importance on the battlefield, and it is a dramatic importance because they can pin totally your squad. They can wreak havoc on your squad. This is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the balance in this was great because they were simulating these incursions of the British, and you cannot bring a lot of heavy equipment. In this case, you have just one anti-tank. Must be lucky to knock down the medium tank, and the history going out of this. That, by the way, another example. You have the two tank crewmen. That is Raffaello De Luca, and you have another Francesco De Luca. Who knows? Maybe they're brothers. Maybe they're father and son. You don't know. You can come up with that.
Mhm.
But also our unfolder. Remember again with Ricardo that he knocked down my medium tank. What I have to do? You see the tank driver going out with this English key. You use that for repairing things.
It's
Go out and
French.
try.
It's French, yeah.
It's a French, yeah. Revenge tried to send away some British rifleman with a French. Well, very desperate move, but in that moment was the only available move that you can have with the card that I have in hand. My tank was knocked out. What I have to do? The guy goes out and try to save the day. And what is incredible about this game that if you reply the scenario multiple times, since you don't know how things can unfold, the hero of previous game is not the hero of the following one. Maybe the tank is going to shine. You are going to have your Raffaele De Luca being able to pin down all British force. Maybe next game is being knocked down or not responsive at all, and then maybe Ignazio become the hero, or maybe they just lose, something like that. So
also with the system, we have Stalingrad that has a campaign evolution, so the same characters they evolve one scenario after the other. So even more
it's a legacy game, that one.
Yeah,
incredible. It's a legacy. I think yes, probably for storytelling that is even better because you can imagine the Stalingrad map that is really changing with time. It's permanent changing, as was real life. I mean, you bomb a building, then becomes rubble. Maybe before was not good for defense, now become impregnable, or vice versa. You have more line of sight. Also, I'm not sure that there's line of sight on Stalingrad, but however, there's a lot changing. Or maybe your soldier been wounded, was a veteran without one of his arms, probably is going to be much less effective in combat. So that's really, you can see the scars on your own soldiers, on the opponents, and the scars on the city. That is really probably going even one more level deeper than what we can see in North Africa, because every scenario is like in a vacuum. They are not linked per se in terms of results. They are linked in terms of historical consequence, but it's not that if you win one scenario or someone is dead in one scenario, they're not going to appear to the next one. It's still going to pop up. So, but yes, I mean, it's an incredible system that very easy way you have to arrange with what you have and simulate great the cows much better than a lot of more traditional war games where, you try to put everything in a clock. Everything must work like this. Like you said, the tin can. In a traditional war game, probably this is never going to work. Instead, here can shine because it's put in a situation where it's still worth something. So yeah, I mean, if you have any question or something, so Ricardo, you like to add something?
No. That's
I have some. Sorry, I have some problems, some connection problems, so I don't listen anything.
Okay.
You have robotic voice.
Okay, how the others were able to listen this? That would be funny.
Luckily, we heard you loud and clear, Annie. So, but after all, it's Fab. It's not important what he said. You know him.
Yeah.
Okay. I just say one thing. Undaunted is just is another example of historical game that appeal people that don't play war game. Questo lo traducete,
Sì.
comunque ha un fascino particolare,
Okay.
perché non ci sono gli esagoni.
Okay, well, this is controversial because Annie is saying that it has a great fascination because it has no axis. axis. I look at that map and I see the axis because those tiles are effectively hexes. They have six
But not
other tiles.
traditional.
Not traditional. This is a look thing. A thing about the look,
Yeah.
the external look.
It's an evolution.
Yeah.
And different impact.
Yeah, you might understand that David Thompson's games, they sell wonderfully here in Italy. We really love David's work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it is not just that, and this is great lead into my own segment. Fabius, you can close your screen capture so that I can give people my own. Okay. Now, what you have seen until now is, of course, as we said, solitaire games, hybrid games, evolutionary war games. Okay? So it could be easy to say that, yeah, storytelling is there, but not in traditional war games. Traditional war games have nothing to do with storytelling, or at least it's storytelling in traditional X and counter war games. It is much less present. But one will not explain why role-playing games evolved straight from traditional war games. What happened? Why? How did we do that? Because the fact is that storytelling is ingrained in the very essence of traditional war games. Now, I'm going to share my screen and okay, here we go. Okay, people, if you want, you can get on my screen. Okay, let's begin with the same story, okay, told by three traditional war games. And the story is the story of the Norman conquest of Italy. Okay, we're in Italy, we're in the south of Italy. It is just a bit after the year 1000. And then a group of mercenaries comes to Sicily, and they are so good at fighting. They are used by the Byzantines against the Arabs, and they are so good at fighting that one of them, Robert the Guiscard, the clever Robert the Clever, says, "Why should we get our own kingdom here? This is such a nice land. Why shouldn't we get our own kingdom?" And this is the premise of one of the greatest evolution in Italian history. This is why we have a lot of people with blue eyes and blonde hairs in Sicily and in southern Italy, because there were those people here. And this is a war game, Guiscard, that is based off one of the most traditional war games that are out there. This is from the, I think, mid 80s. People, if Jason, sorry, if you have your microphone on, if you could just silence it. Thank you very much. Okay. This is an evolution from Cry Havoc. Okay, the base system of this game, it is an axe and counter game. The base system of this game is from the mid 80s. We have charts, we have tables, we have counters with values, etc. Just the usual stuff that we are accustomed in war games. But what do we have? What are the storytelling elements here? And why Giscard? And Fabio knows that because we have played a lot of matches with this one. They were incredible matches. This is a save game from one of those matches. You see people stunned, wounded, knights charging, and unhorsed, etc., etc. There's the three main elements that you have already seen in the hybrid games that preceded this. That is event narrations. The events are narrated in a very comprehensible, understandable way. We have the beginning of a story, the evolution, and the end of a story. And okay, we have character description. Okay, here it is just graphic, but as we have seen in Undaunted by Fabio, maybe two people have the same name. Are they related somehow? Or we see a shepherd here with his sheep, with his dog. Okay, so we have a description of characters. And third, by playing the game, we get into the most fundamental force of storytelling, that is player relation with them. We get into relation with our characters by playing them, by being them, controlling them. This is also controversial, but it is not, doesn't really matter here. What really matters is that we are in a relation with our characters, but we also have historical basis. This is a simulation. This is a situation. These are Norman people fighting against the Varangian god of the Byzantines. We have also what Danigan would say non-linear storytelling. Why non-linear? Because it is not A, B, C, D, E every single time we read that. We are playing a game. A game is flexible. A game is mobile. Many things can happen in a game. So, and every single play is different. But we have also narrative arcs, such as those highlighted by Maurice Suckling in his works. We have interactivity. I make a move, my opponent makes another, so we have to cope with the consequences of our own move and the decisions of the other player. The results are plausible. Why? They're in relation with reality, thanks to all those tables. And oh wow, I don't know if there is something more traditional of wargaming than those combat those CRTs, than those combat result tables. And also the same model proposed by this game, well, it can be replayed all over and all over again, and every time it will be different, but the basis, the mathematical basis will be there, but the storytelling will be different. So the mathematical basis of this game will become the grammar, okay, of the storytelling, of the story, of the narration of the story we see unfold before our own eyes. Of course, Giscard is facilitating this. Why? Because it is a tactical game. We have seen Undaunted North Africa and even Resist in some ways. They are both tactical games. One counter is equal to one person. Okay? It's more or less like a miniature games. Yeah, it is very, very similar to a role-playing game experience. And this means that we can have heroic or dastardly deeds. We can have narrative oriented scenarios with objectives. They can link it in a campaign. And yes, the game has a campaign game when you create your own warband and you go around in Sicily and you go see and you go do many things, conquering castles, making battles. And yes, so this begins a narration. This is the great virtue of tactical games. But it is not just about tactical games, because we can get here, and here we have, you should see now, Norman conquests. Fabio, do you remember this? Fabio?
Oh. Sorry. Do you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, I hear you. You see that?
Yeah,
okay.
That's my favorite scenario ever.
Because well, we played. There is one on our own YouTube channel of the story. Let's just say that Fabio is a very lucky guy with dice. Anyway, okay, Norman conquest
strategy, right?
Yeah. Okay, this is the battle. This is the battle that gave to the Normans the dominion over southern Italy. The Norman, and here we are. Okay, let's see. Robert the Giscard, okay, was not in charge that day, but this was the one battle that gave them the possibility of carving out their own kingdom against the papal forces. Men of Iron, yes, it has some differences from a traditional axe and counter I go, you go wargame, but it is not important here. It is an axe and counter wargame, okay? And it is in the perfect tradition of wargames. And you might say, okay, where are the storytelling elements here? I make one move, okay. I advance with the archers, okay. I make a charge with the cavalry. What happens? Where are those storytelling elements you keep talking us about? But you see, we have leaders, Frederick of Lorraine, Richard of Aversa. So you have single character, and but those single character, they move their own forces, and those forces create a story, a very graphical story. Because with this charge of cavalry, will the infantry line break? Will Frederick of Lorraine manage to keep the line together? Will he perish in the fight against the Norman cavalry? You see, there is a story developing, and we are related with that story because we are the ones who decide, should I go with this charge or should I go with this other charge against, oh my, they are the Varangians, they are the German infantry, they are much tougher, they are much harder to break. But also we have non-linear elements, deeply narrative elements, where the seizure counters, you all know them. If you played with and you see, let's just read them. I'm just picking them at random. Unsteady troops into the breach. Okay, the Normans use the battle cry. So once again, we have events, we have people making events, we have stories unfolding before our own eyes. In what is, even if a bit different, absolutely a traditional X and counter war games. Wargame. This is not an hybrid Eurogame. This is an evolution of a Richard Berg system. And here we are on the, we could say, the grand tactical, more or less, scale. Okay, we are on the battle scale. But strategic games, it is very difficult to find storytelling in strategic games. True? Not quite, because, okay, this one is only on Board Game Geek because I didn't find a vessel module, but here you have Italia. Italia is the evolution of a traditional game, and that game was Britannia. Italia has two scenarios. The first one is about the rise of Rome in the central Italy, and the last one is the fall of the Western Roman Empire presence, and it more or less arrives up to more or less the beginning of the story of the Normans. Why did I choose Italia? And here we see some of images of the game. You see, once again, you have leaders, you have events, you have narrative arcs, because in the Britannia system, some civilizations, some people appear and then disappear, then come others, and this is present in a way also in Italia. And once again, you are related with those people, with that presence, especially if you're Italian, because you know the places. But even if not, you are engaged with the narration of what's happening on the board. This is not just chess. This is the main difference. Why? Because chess is abstract, and this gives us the true concept of it all. Is that okay? I'm getting back to Miskimi. What is the main force that give us storytelling in historical simulation games? The fact that they are simulating something. And since they are not fantasy simulation games, because there are fantasy war games, science fiction war games, fantasy war games, doesn't matter. But since they are simulating history, we come to the conclusion that is history itself that gives us the storytelling in historical simulation games and war games. This is the main concept. This is what we, and this is also what we see every day if you shift from the conception of is it or is it not a war game, this game, if you just ask yourself, is a game about history, about historical dynamics, does the game represent them, or is it just abstract? If it does not make things only abstract, if it simulates things, the game is telling a story in which you are at the same time the writer and the spectator and the viewer and the reader. But it is a story anyway, anyhow. And it's different from every single time you play it. With every single other people you play it, it is different every time, but it is always the same because it is based on the same basis. That is the model that represents the starting point of it all, the foundational level of it all, that is history. At the end, it is history that gives us the storytelling in historical simulation games. Okay, thank you. So if we have any questions, the floor is open.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay,
about
wow.
the-
Fabio, you're a
good question.
speaker. You should not have questions. Anyway,
Really?
you're
No.
not, you're not smart. Come on.
I was saying about the gift card scenario. Which one was the most strongest among all the opponents? We're talking about story, so this
Yeah.
is a very good story.
This is another thing that this storytelling tends to feed itself. One particular counter during that gaming session, that was Osborne, that counter had the name. All alone, he managed to kill 3 or 4 Varangians, hiding the bushes. It was just like a superhero. And then there are ballads written about Osborne. So, but this is also an interesting part of storytelling. That is, there is a storytelling of the gaming sessions you had, of the gaming experiences. One particular piece of the game made a great session, a great engagement, and you tend to remember them. But it is also, this is part of storytelling. Bolaño said, Roberto Bolaño in Third Reich has a phrase: "Tell me about your best divisions." About Third Reich. Why? Because some counters are so good that they become the best division, the most beautiful division. Why? Because they all alone they resolved entire battles, and this is storytelling. And this is storytelling in traditional historical war games. Okay, anyone from the public now has some questions?
Well, I have a comment. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely, Michael.
I hear the term creates a narrative a lot in reference to, it's a little more sophisticated way of putting it.
Mhm.
But and also immersive. I am immersive. That creating an immersive narrative is a big strength, and it makes me. I'm thinking of Mike Denson's Last 100 Yards series.
Mm-hmm.
Very much like what Undaunted does. Whenever I play, it seems very simple at first, but by the end of it, you're shaking your head, going, "Wow, that
What's
really
happened?"
felt like that could really happen." Yeah.
Well, Michael, thank you, because one thing that is great about Last 100 Yards is how time flows in Last 100 Yards.
Yeah.
No, it is not fixed. At the beginning, everything, it's easy, but then time delays when the units get in contact. And this is storytelling too.
Yeah. And there's that pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like, it reminds me of some Packing Pass movie, with slow motion. Okay, in Cross of Iron, when there is the engagement, everything becomes slow, explosions, and people, because it is the tension. And this is a very specific storytelling techniques used.
Yeah.
Used in
cinema.
Yeah, cinema.
Yeah, very good. I like that. I like that analogy very much.
Okay, guys, if you have any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we can wrap here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having been here. I hope you enjoyed this small chat about this peculiar element, and I hope that this gives you new perspective. And thank you for the comments, because those gave us also new perspectives on how to enjoy historical gaming, not just from a purely mathematical functional point of view, but also from a storytelling point of view, retaking them where they should be, as not just paper time machines, but paper time telling machines. And this is why they are so great in all of their form. Thank you very much. Oh, and if anyone wants to visit us, Ludostoria, we are on Facebook. I will put the link on the text section here. We are
Certo.
mostly an Italian-speaking group, but we also have content in English. So feel free to make your posts in English. We will ask, no problem. Many people here know to read and get back in English. So thank you very much.
We have also a lot of
Oh.
international friends on the group itself. So
Yeah. We also a lot of people.
there's Fred, there's Thompson itself, right?
Yeah,
So,
and also
But,
Harold. Yeah, Annie.
in social network,
Yeah, no,
there'll be
thanks for
the
tonight as well.
automatic.
Sorry.
So I was just going to say thanks for the talk tonight. It's really interesting getting your take on stories. I totally agree. When you're playing a game, you want to be sort of imagining the commanders, the circumstance, the things that have happened. You want your game to bring those to the players. As I say, it's not just maths. It's trying to retell a theme, and the more the game feels like the theme, the better the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
absolutely.
And the more they
It's much more immersive.
Yeah, the more they immerse you in the thing, as Michael said. Annie, you were saying.
In social network, there is the automatic translate.
Okay, yeah. Oh, we have also Instagram, and also follow Club della Tovaglia on Instagram. Annie, they have lots of historical content on their own.
Club
on
della
their
Tovaglia is the tablecloth club, because we play on ugly tablecloth.
And they love it.
And they love it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I love you guys. Guys, I love the energy you brought to this and the liveliness.
Grazie. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Oh, and thank you to Harold and all the great SDHistCon staff, because they are amazing. And we have to confess, our own virtual Ludostoricon has the San Diego Historicon a bit of one of our models. Okay, and we are very happy for that. Bye bye. Thanks to everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.